and participation would be great, so thank you. Commissioner Rouse. Sorry.
Thank you, President Justino. We appreciate the Wood Neighborhood Association for helping organize this this community conversation. Before we begin, I just want to show a round of appreciation to Mayor and Schweber Synagogue for hosting us tonight. Again, I'm James Rouse. I'm Commissioner of the Department of Planning and Community Development for the City of Mount Vernon. As Mike had mentioned, we are engaging phase 2 of the comprehensive plan, having completed phase 1 last year with the competition. I'll go more into details about that throughout the presentation. But first, I want to introduce some of our staff who are here. First, who will be passing the mic back and forth with me is Deputy Commissioner Marlon Molina. Sitting in front here is our GIS administrator and former Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee member before we go her award, Lilia Danino. In the back there, working the cameras, is Senior Planner Will Highland. In that table over there is our Director of Sustainability, Shane Brooks. Standing over in the corner there is our Grants Compliance Officer, Warren Flute. Sitting the table over there is our Executive Secretary, Tamika Graham-Otava. And the Grants Administrator, Steve Lawrence, was, but he might be out front directing anyone who But before I begin, we're privileged to have one of your neighbors and our city. Oh, so Monica. Monica Hughes, who used to be a part of planning, is now in the water department. So just doing that service work. So I appreciate wrote pamphlets about that. So if you have an issue with that, she's the person. But yeah, I'd like to introduce, as I mentioned, your neighbor, our council member, Ed Lateef, just to say hello and say a couple of words.
Good evening, everyone. So you could be anywhere. So I'm really grateful that you're here spending Tuesday night with us working on this comp plan. On council, we were somewhat worried because phase 1 is now done, but we were hopeful that residents would come out to then also work on phase 2. And as Commissioner Rouse said, that phase 2 impacts not the downtown area, but the rest of the city. So I hope, and we hope on council, that you take this process very, very seriously. Thank you, Commissioner Rouse, for all the work that you keep on doing. And we are looking forward to everything you have to say, because this will form the blueprint, at least for the next 10 years. And as our mayor likes to say, we haven't had a comp plan in Mount Vernon since the 60s. So this document will probably live a lot longer than 10 years. So your input tonight is crucial to how we move the city. With that being said, thank you for being here, and we look forward to your kind comments.
Thank you, council member. Always appreciate you coming out. Also wanted to acknowledge ARB board member Buzz Riley, and I think I saw planning board chair Daryl Selsey for outside. So I see a lot of familiar faces, but raise your hand if this is your first comprehensive plan meeting or never really heard of a comprehensive plan. Don't be shy, it's fine. Okay. So about 10 people or so. So by the way, this is a great turnout. This is, a modest space, but it's great just seeing, a packed house. It's because we've seen, a wide range depending on where we've been, day of the week, time of day, but this is a really great turnout. So why are we doing this, and what is the comprehensive plan? So comprehensive plan really is, I like to portray it as a beginning. It is a plan, it is a vision for the city. It is something that helps us determine our identity. Why is that important? Because every community is unique. Mount Vernon, but Mount Vernon's role in your state and in our country. And so it's really important that when we make important decisions about the growth, development, as well as preservation for our city, that we come together and we try to work and create that vision, together as part of the community. So a comprehensive plan really is kind of a 10-year lens of what we, identifying who we've been, who we currently are, and how we want to be. As Councilmember Potteet mentioned, this is a living document. The idea is that, comprehensive plans can be a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20-year. We're working with the mindset that, we're creating a guide for the next 10 years. And with that, it's a living document, it's something that can be replicable 10 years. So that's really important, because this is just not a static document. This is not just something that folks today decide, how we're going to be for the next century. It's your children, your grandchildren, your friends, cousins way down the line. And the reason it's important to emphasize that is because it has been 56 years since the last conference, 1968. That's a long time. Granted, and I would point this out, it's a long time, but it's not unprecedented. New York City has never had a conference. Other municipalities have gone back to the 50s, the 40s for the last comprehensive plan. So it's not like, it's just, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time. That's something that's very important because it's a community-led process that, takes, what I like to say, it's part of everyone's opinion, best idea. A lot of people like to focus on content. Like, well, it's some community, some people with different communities within the community, how can you do that? And that's why I would say, collaboration. It takes the best of what it can bring. And that creates what we want to do. And it's really important to highlight that. Now it's like to highlight where Mount Vernon is right now, because there's been a lot of pressure, a lot of development pressure, a lot of, certain things have happened over the last decade, that a lot of folks are not happy with development, getting our bond rating back, things like that. It has been an easy process. And so we're working towards that, but, just determining what Mount Vernon's identity is, how we want the city to grow, is key to that. And I always say, I was like triangle. It's the city of Mount Vernon, suburb of New York. It functions as a pretty typical Westchester village. And so within all that, where are we? You can look one direction and see 50-story towers in New Rochelle. We can look west and see, waterfront development in Yonkers. We can just see what's going on in West Main. We can see what's happening in Portchester. All those are relevant, but they're not all Mount Vernon. So we can learn from them, but copying and pasting is not the way to go. So the feedback that you give, the information that you give is going to be, taken into account. This process, even though we're facilitating it, we're not leading it. And I also want to emphasize, it's just like, we synthesize it, we work with partners both internally and externally, such as the neighborhood association. And so that's kind of what we're looking to do. Just very briefly, because I want to turn it over to Deputy Commissioner Molina to talk about this, part of the community agreement of how we're going to run this community conversation tonight. Is that we split up in 2 phases. We did that for 2 reasons. Number one, most importantly, I want to start with that, is community buying. Because it's been so long, and we've done a couple of attempts over the decades of trying to do a comprehensive plan and not succeeded, that we felt like the community has to buy in, slowly become part of the process to believe that this is the real thing. Number two, downtown has a lot of development pressure that needs to be addressed. A lot of different issues, particularly like with retail, that needs to be addressed, especially after the pandemic. decided to look at that lens. You know, it's a place that brought everyone together, because, you know, whether you shop downtown or not, it's something that everyone cares about. Healthy downtown is important. So now we're going to phase two, more focused on the neighborhoods, and that's gonna be a different approach. I know some folks were concerned about, you know, the downtown gonna look the way we want it to look like. Downtown's downtown. Neighborhoods are different, I don't say they're different creatures, they feed, you know, they feed on one another. Not negative, but it's not, they, you know, flow into one another, but this is your, where you live, how do you want to see where you live? And part of the growth sometimes is, you know, preserving what's there. And so how do we approach that? And so we're really excited to listen to all your ideas and comments. And then turn over to the deputy commissioner, talk about how things are going to unfold.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So we have a lot of opinions and want to make sure that there's an opportunity for everyone to share. But we want to be respectful so that the community agreement is the following. Be respectful of each other, be present, step up, step back. What does that mean? If someone is speaking, you know, don't have a conversation at the table so that we can all listen. One mic, so we will have a mic. Some of you have an outside voice, you might want to start speaking, but we want to make sure that whoever's holding the mic is the voice that you hear in the room. And challenge ideas at each other. As you know, as the commissioner said, some folks, you know, preservation, free space, all of those are very great topics, but they can also be, you know, people can be very passionate about those. So challenge ideas and speak from your own experience. You know, some of you might be here for 40 years, 10 years, 5 years, and you just moved into the room. We'll see who's in the room in a second. And also keep your comments brief. We want to make sure that we get to hear from everyone that wants to say something, but more importantly, you'll get to write down your comments. So we know that not everyone will get a chance to speak, but we'll be able to collect the data, the information, your ideas, and, you know, we're going to do it in a way that is organized, and we're going to have, you know, topics that we're going to focus on for each of the themes. Okay. So in terms of who's in the room, you know, some of you may know each other. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to join the community neighborhood association. So raise your hand if you, let me just question, raise your hand if you attended the conference meeting. Okay. Raise your hand if this is your first time attending a conference. Right? And raise your hand if you lived in Mount Vernon for more than 5 years. Okay, less than 5 years. All right, welcome. So we're going to get to the exercise shortly, but we want to give you some background on which commission.
So I talked, you know, a bit about, you know, what the conference is. That we haven't done one in a while. We recognize that some folks have gone through this process before, not only here, but there was a comprehensive plan done from 2009 to 2010 that was not done. And sometimes the fear, like, well, are we going to do it? And getting the downtown vision report was a big accomplishment because it shows that we all work together and we determine, despite certain obstacles, we can get them. And the good thing going into, and this is not a comment on politics, the good thing about the current situation is that there's some continuity. The mayor was re-elected, we have a council that's so supportive of this effort. And so I know last time that there was one of the issues, politics got involved, and put on the shelf. And so we have a dedicated leadership in getting this done. It's, you know, there's it's been a good process, and I give a lot of credit to, the staff that participated, the staff, not only my staff in other departments. And so there's a belief in the administration, even at staff level, how to recognize and come forward. And so I just want to reassure that, we're rolling up our sleeves, we're grinding it out until the end, because it's important that we get to that point, because it's important to, create a model that will be replicated. Now, I'm going to talk about something, that's very important, and folks have had a lot of questions about. Is that I mentioned that we're not doing this alone. It's not only working with the community, it's not only working with neighborhood associations, but we have consultants. And during the first phase, because we participated, you had a number of consultants at the public workshops. And they helped, synthesize all the information and first draft of the downtown. What some folks, a lot of folks do know, but not everyone knows, is that we have made changes today. We were not thrilled with the end product, and we were not thrilled with how the process was executed. And so that we decided to change the consultants, because a lot of the responsibility was put on that firm, and we are in the process of changing the consultants. Our intent is to keep the two sub-consultants who work on the first phase, because a lot of their work, we had a good relationship with them. A lot of their work focused around zoning, housing, economic development, environmental, and a lot of that data gathering was useful, was important. And so we would like to maintain that continuity, because it's important to maintain continuity. But we are focusing on hiring a new lead consultant, and as well as an outreach consultant. Why? Is because even though my team did a fantastic job with outreach, and I will say that proudly, is that it takes a lot. These community conversations are great, they're wonderful, but coming up with, outreach, marketing, communication plan, does take its toll while we're trying to manage youth sports and other development issues throughout the state. And so we're gonna be speaking with the team this week, tomorrow with City Council, and hopefully, City Council accepts the proposal, and they will be more active part of the conversation, because I know one complaint last time in these community conversations was that consultant team is not present. So we get more present if we move forward and have how are we going about this? Consultants aren't free. Consultants aren't cheap. And so we're closing out that first phase with consultants being paid part of their contract. And so City Council has put $350,000 in our outside contracting services for all our outside contracts. So there's not a comprehensive plan, they're mostly for the comprehensive plan. And so when we negotiate, final contract, we're paying through, but we did receive a $75,000 grant from Empire State Development, and we recently got approval to draw it down to support that. So we're going to have to pay for the other level. So as I mentioned, we're doing it in the phase approach. And so working with, just getting a little recap of what we did. During the first phase, we had 9 community conversations that took place in person. We had 2 topic-specific roundtables. One focused on the general business community, and one focus on the real estate community, which is have an advisory committee, as I mentioned earlier. And we changed the makeup of that advisory committee to have more balanced representation, but we had 3 meetings and six specific working sessions with the advisory committee, and we'll be having more of those kind of meetings throughout this too. And we did a lot of different type of outreach that we helped initiate through a survey, interactive student mapping tool, which has become more robust now. Working with us, and we interviewed a lot of different key stakeholders. And that's important because, even though in phase 2, we are focused on residential community, there's a lot of different things. So it's important that we do our best to reach out and make sure that all voices are heard so we can process that. So this is a little snapshot of the timeline, of when the timeline is. So it doesn't necessarily match up perfectly in terms of the months, but this is what we worked with our previous consultant on. And so just going up here, we're kind of like right here. We actually had 3 meeting conversations in October and November, because even though we had wrapped up phase 1, we just did not want them to die out. So we took a break for holiday season, even though I know it's April into the past the holiday. As I said, the change in consultants took its time, it took its toll. So we wanted to do it right, so we just gave it a little more time to make sure we spoke with everyone we felt we needed to speak with and that had interest in working with the city on this. So that's why it was kind of bummed out about it. We said it starting like last week of February, early this month. But 1 month. So what we want to do is we want to ask you some some of the basic questions, some a little more in-depth questions. Just so I'm going to go over some, questions to the question. There's a lot of topical areas that you see. There are filters all around the building here. Economic development, open space, community safety and wellness, housing, transportation and complete streets, and I talk about complete streets are in a minute, and sustainability and resiliency about that in a minute as well as we go through. So some questions to consider and a lot more questions to ask, even if we're not limited. I want to be clear about that when making these questions. What's your greatest concern when it comes to housing? What supports are necessary to make Mount Vernon a safer and healthier place? How can we make sure Mount Vernon is resilient against future storms, flooding, heat waves, and other impacts of climate change? So a little bit about sustainability and resiliency, if you're not familiar with that. When we talk about resiliency, we talk about resilience on multiple levels. Environmental resiliency, so if there are earthquakes, Armageddon type of eclipses, hurricanes, tropical storms, things like that we're ready for, and both with hard and soft infrastructure. So both concrete and nature working harmoniously together. Sustainability, which they're separate things but not mutually exclusive, is how do we there's like green building technologies to improve the health and wellness of our homes and our office buildings and our schools and hospitals. There's sustainability in terms of our sewer infrastructure, upgrading our sewer infrastructure, a very sustainable thing to do. And as well as other things like greening streets, planting trees, you might see rain gardens on certain sidewalks. So those are just some examples, solar panels, energy efficient boilers, things like that. So that's what we talk about when we talk about sustainability and resilience, as well as the resilient and sustainable city organization. That's the end goal, because there is organizational. What kind of services would you like to see running for private residents? Where does Mount Vernon need more green spaces, plazas, and parks? What are your ideas for making Mount Vernon a place that is safe for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers? So that question is what we talk about when we discuss complete streets. Complete streets is something, that means access for all. So, I know some people like bike lanes, other folks don't like bike lanes. But it's really not just bike lanes, it's more than that. It's like different transit options. It's making sure that sidewalks have curb cuts. So if someone's in a wheelchair or, as a walker, that they can actually get up and down the sidewalk and into the street. And just creating like gathering space. Important gathering spaces, making sure that flow amongst the gathering space is important and that it's welcoming and that it's something that brings people together. What are your ideas for making Mount Vernon a place that, as I said, what kind of businesses do you want to see grow in Mount Vernon? So, again, retail, economic development, office space. What kind of investments what kind of investments would make streets and public spaces more welcoming to the neighborhood? Again, kind of part of that open space, but a little bit of the complete streets. So again, I went over the topic areas. I think at this point, I'll turn it over to DC Molina. Yes.
So this is the part where you start to put your ideas on paper. And the way that we're going to do it is we're gonna select a topic. We're gonna spend 5 minutes on each topic. In phase one, we used to list the topic and then folks had to kind of choose what they invested their time in, whether they're talking about health, sustainability. Sometimes folks didn't get a chance to give their opinion on all the topics. But with this format, we're gonna spend 5 minutes on each topic. We'll collect whatever you wrote down, and then we're gonna post them at each of the stations. And then, so that's gonna be the first half hour. The second half hour, we're gonna ask you to go to the station of your choice, and then you get to react on what your neighbors have put up, whether you agree or disagree, whether there's missing that you thought about, Commissioner Red, a whole bunch of different subjects, just kind of prime your mind to think about different things. But as you said, those are not the only questions. You can bring up stuff that's not up there, and that's probably the most important part of this. There's some things that you experience that you want the city to know about, that you want this comprehensive plan to address. So that's what we're going to work on. So as we said, it's going to be housing, open space, transportation, sustainability, resiliency, wellness and community safety, and economic development. But before we get to these questions, we're going to do an exercise just as an icebreaker. And the icebreaker is, first of all, there's sort of post-its in front of you, so grab a post-it and a pencil. And as the commissioner said, we have the GIS administrator on board. Follow that.
Are we focused on, that data that, we focused on Fleetwood or in this meeting?
So
I can't address issues, say, the other neighbors.
So the question is, are we going to focus just on people? So this conversation is focusing in the rest of Mount Vernon. So if you shop in Sanford Boulevard, that's not considered downtown. And we have an industrial park, we have Hunt Woods. And so there's a lot of different assets that are throughout the city that you may experience that you want to make sure that we address with the comp plan.
So expand on what Deputy Commissioner Molina was saying, there are, topics aren't isolated in the bubble. It's not just, a Fleetwood issue, it's outside issue, a Blue Heights issue. So, the purpose of this is working with the neighborhood association. Yes, we want to hear what's important for Fleetwood. We just want to see what's going on here, get a sense. We know some issues are a little larger than just the neighborhood. And some are both. Some it's like, you see one interesting thing is, I know, everyone's favorite topic discussion, 42 Brook. We would be, deep in the south side. And people are talking about 42 Brook. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with their neighborhood, but it does. But they see what's happening in the city, so like, we wanna talk about that, like, what does that mean for Mount? So if there's something that Commissioner Molina said, so, hey, something's happening on Sanford Boulevard, does that impact, Bremerton Avenue in any way with what's going on there? So, feel free, we would like to know, very specifically what's happening in Fleetwood. But if there's an issue that you feel is more citywide, please do not hesitate to bring it up, because it does relate to Fleetwood. What happens in Fleetwood does relate to the city.
So the first exercise, we want to capture who is here and what location is in the room. So grab a piece of paper and you can, either put down your address or your cross streets. And I think we're gonna map that out. As we go to the different neighborhoods, we'll be able to see, where the neighbors came up from in each of the areas where we hold these meetings. So that's actually, I think, something curious. Hold on. And then, so that's gonna be question number one. Question number two is, what does your neighborhood mean to you? And, we're gonna leave that as an open-ended question. You can either write a sentence or, describe it in 3 words. It could be something positive, it could be something challenging, or it could be something aspirational. So we're gonna take a minute, so that you can go ahead and answer that question. What does your neighborhood mean to you?
I have a question. I don't see that in here and you guys didn't mention it. Is there any point or a good time when we can ask more general questions that we may have specifically about phase 2?
So
That would be wonderful.
After this exercise, we'll take a minute.
All right, thank you.
So if you want to, raise your hand if you want to share, what you think about your neighborhood.
No, I want to ask a general question.
So any thoughts on, what does your neighborhood mean to you?
I think it's very welcome. You know, you can walk, but you never have to drive. And, just today, when I was walking around, people just say hello. I don't know them, they don't, very friendly, type of name. Well, my aunt said what I was going to say, the development of family and everything, and pointing to safety. The teaching and the just nothing to the name.
My name is Jonathan Davis, and observation is my neighborhood. This area gets more services, has less crime, and quality of life issues are less visible. I live a couple blocks